The content herein is for informational purposes only, not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and is not to be substituted for direct advice from your doctor.
Welcome to LymphCast, the gathering place for physicians, healthcare experts, and special guests. We dive into the world of lymphedema, venous disease, and other related disorders, exploring their impact on your daily life. So settle in, unwind, and join us as we uncover everything you need to know about lymphedema and related conditions on our engaging show LymphCast.
Today's LymphCast program is proudly sponsored by VitaSupport MD, the makers of Vein Formula 1000 and Lymphatic Formula 1000. These MPFF-based nutraceuticals are backed by science and recommended by doctors specializing in venous and lymphatic disorders. Visit VitaSupportMD.com to learn more.
Greetings and welcome to our LymphCast show, episode 41 tonight, another power-packed, content-filled episode for you. We want to remind you to visit our website, lymphcastnetwork.com. Everything is there, all of the information that you need, including our email address. If you send in a question the doctors just might answer on the show, that address is hello@lymphcastnetwork.com. We want to remind you every show is on YouTube and every show is in podcast land. Wherever you want to go, just type in the show and you will find us. Let's go around the room and meet the panel tonight. We'll dive right into the content. From Arizona, Dr. Monica Glavitsky. Hello, Dr. Glavitsky. How are you?
Hello, everybody. It's wonderful to be with all of you today with my super LymphCast team and with our great guest today. And I'm looking forward to our discussion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us. Let's head out to California and bring in regular panel member, Dr. Emily Eicher. Hello, Dr. Eicher. How are you?
Thank you, Paul. I'm fine. Thank you. And a wonderful team is ahead of us. And we are looking forward to get some tips from these wonderful superstars that you will see pretty soon. Hi, everybody.
All right. Thank you for being with us. Let's go to New Jersey. Greet the gentleman who started this show. He's the founder of this show. He's also the founder and owner of VitaSupport MD. They make Lymphatic Formula 1000, Vein Formula 1000. From New Jersey, physician, surgeon, Dr. John A. Chubak. Hello, Dr. Chubak. How are you, sir?
Hi, Paul. Doing well. Looking forward.
All right. Great to have you here. Let's turn it over now to the CEO of the Chubak Medical Group. She's also the producer of this show, all things behind the scenes. It's all about what she does, but now she's on the camera. Also from New Jersey, Dr. Diane Chubak. Hello, Dr. Diane Chubak. How are you?
Hello, Paul. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm very excited about today's show because as we mentioned last time on the show, we are kicking off a special collaboration between our LymphCast team and a team headed up by Amy Rivera and Matt Hazeldine, and they are authors of this wonderful book, Lymphedema United, and it is a collection of 33 stories about that were written and authored by people with lymphedema from all over the world. So these special edition shows will be featuring two of those special authors, and we have two here today. But I would like you to introduce you first to Amy Rivera, co-author of this book. Hi, Amy.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
So glad to see you today. And then we are going to introduce out of Manitoba, I believe, Amanda Sobey, who is author. Amanda, what chapter are you?
5, I believe.
Chapter 5. Okay.
So chapter 8.
Is it?
It's a trick question, Amanda.
It was a trick question. That one wasn't on my question sheet.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll find you. So thank you so much for joining us. And from the UK, we have today Kaz Windsor. And Kaz, you are chapter, which I have it here, 20.
18.
18.
Thank you.
And we are so looking forward to having you lovely ladies tell your story and again how you came to meet Amy and everything and to be a part of this project overall. So We'd like to start with Amanda. Now, Amanda, we've known you for a long time, and you have been an incredible spokesperson for people with lymphedema. And, you know, you are yourself a fitness expert, and you can I will let you tell your story, but give us some background on how you came to have lymphedema, your journey, and kind of the inflection points that gave you, again, that North Star and how, you know, that led you to where you are today.
I'm not sure if we have all the time for all the nitty-gritty details, so I'll just jump right on in. Hi, everybody. Amanda Sobey from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, Chapter 8. I first was afflicted with this condition back in 2001. And I really just think I was unfortunately destined to have this illness. I had 2 instances that had happened within a week's time of itself. I used to live out in Vancouver, British Columbia at the time, and I used to be very avid at going on the seawall and rollerblading. And one day I got bit with a mosquito bite in my right thigh, and that mosquito bite was very hot, very swollen, very peculiar, considering I'm a prairie girl and we have mosquitoes all the time. And this bug bite was very different. That being said, about a week later, I was only 21 years old. And, you know, when you're 21, you have a nightlife, you go to the club. I was assaulted at random by 5 people who attacked me just inside the nightclub and traumatized me, basically, and bruised me up. And I was fairly damaged because of that situation. So whether it be the bug bite or whether it be that assault that had taken effect, I ended up going to hospital because of the incident that happened at the nightclub. And there was blood in my urine. I was very sick, very ill. I couldn't walk on my right leg. And I thought I sprained my ankle in the altercation. I put a tensor bandage on that foot. And for about 3 weeks solidly, I couldn't walk. I couldn't put pressure. I ended up taking the tensor bandage off. And right before my eyes, my foot swelled, and it went from my foot to my calf to my thigh. And then I thought at that point, I should probably go see a doctor. Thankfully, that doctor referred me to a vascular specialist that did the lymphoscintigraphy that found out that my lymphatic system was compromised. Gave me a prescription for medical grade compression and told me that I would need a massage known as manual lymphatic drainage for the rest of my life. Said that there was no cure and walked out of the room. Now, at that point in time, back in 2001, we still had dial-up internet. So when you typed in the word lymphedema, you seen the very famous picture of a man in Africa sitting on a bench with elephantitis. So the only vision that I had, or the only path that I had seen, was a very disabled, disfigured, grotesque picture of this condition. There was no social media influencers at that point in time. There was nothing to teach me or tell me that there was something that could be done. So 16 years, I was on a roller coaster ride of trying to figure out what was happening, trying to seek out medical attention, trying to do alternative methods. Failed miserably every time that I tried to take a step, which was very tolling and taxing on my mental health. Not to mention, I had become a divorcee and I was a full-time single parent of 2 children. I moved back home to my province in Manitoba, and in Manitoba, we do not have healthcare for lymphedema. The only type of care and treatment that is covered for lymphatic patients is for cancer surviving patients. So getting medical grade compression, getting manual lymphatic drainage was definitely not an option through our healthcare system. And I'll touch back on that for the later part of my story with regards to my passion and advocacy here in the province. But it was a complete up and down whirlwind of never being able to get the proper medical supplies, never being able to get the care, as well as trying to juggle life alongside this very chronic condition. Fast forward to about 2016, I ended up being completely bedridden and disabled due to a series of events. I couldn't even walk to the washroom. And I just remember lying in bed and thinking to myself, universe, God, anybody who's willing to listen, if you want me to make it through this, you have to give me a leg up. Sorry, I'm going to cry. You have to at least give me something that I can go off of. I've tried everything suggested by doctors. I've tried everything suggested what I could find in medical research papers. I wasn't making any headway. And the only voice that I heard was, just try. And the first thing that I started to do was drink water, oddly enough. That was how it started. I consistently drank my 2 to 3 liters of water every single day. Once I nailed that fact down, I knew that moving my muscles was very important because your lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. So the next thing was for me to walk to the washroom. And then every day that I would walk to the washroom, I would get a little bit further. I'd walk down the stairs and then back up the stairs. And every day I finally graduated to walk to the end of the driveway, which then encouraged me to get a gym membership, regaining my strength. And I remember just going to the gym regularly. I remember drinking my water, doing my manual lymphatic drainage, and I started to take an interest more into nutrition as well too. And I would slowly start to use I love science, I love education, I love research. And I started to use my very scientific analytical brain, and I started to write everything down, what I was doing, tracking my results, seeing what was working. And I actually treated this as a science. And lo and behold, after about a solid 1.5 years worth of work, I had some friends tell me that I should get up on stage and go into a bodybuilding competition, as I was getting pretty mean and lean due to all of my continuous efforts in the fitness world. And I entered myself in, and lo and behold, I won against 7 women. Not a single person knew I had lymphedema. That wasn't even seen or visualized. And that's how it got my way into fitness. Sadly, in 2018, I fell down again because even though I took care of myself physically with the nutrition and the fitness, I didn't take care of the faculties upstairs in my brain. And I fell down again in 2018. And then I was looking for work, and someone said, "Hey, you should become a coach. You love to train people." And I just thought that was the silliest thing somebody could ever say to me, because I was always the athlete. I was never the coach. I was never the teacher. I was never a manager. I was just the person. If you told me to go and run a marathon, I was that person that I would just go do it. So lying in bed again in 2018, I guess our phones were starting to listen to us at that point in time. Didn't I not see, get your certification to become a personal trainer? And I thought, well, I've got nothing better to do with my time here in bed. I'll give it a go. So I got my certification, and I landed my very first job in a very small community in a gym. And my very first day of work, I went in there and I pretended like I knew what I was doing. My very first class, all of 5 minutes into this class, it was the best experience I could have ever imagined in my life. It was just a natural fit. Like, I just didn't think that seeing people rise up and seeing people get better, especially under my guidance and just my tips in the way how I coach and the way how I network with people, I loved it. And that is what you see as the making of all those really weird roller coaster of events of how you kind of see me today. And the coaching aspect of everything went from, yes, I was teaching in the gym what I would consider more like normal people that don't have lymphatic illnesses. But my passion lied with helping people like me, as there were very limited resources. I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want somebody to wait, 18 years to get help the way how I had to struggle through it. And slowly but surely, I took my scientific brain, I took my coaching and passion, and I just took my love of just being able to talk in a way to people that I feel makes sense, but give them the cold, hard facts to make a difference with their illnesses. And this is how you see what you see in front of you today. And I couldn't be more grateful. It was not a straight path forward. There was lots of periods of time that I have fallen down, and I'm very honest about that, because I think people assume that the path to success is straight. And I just want to take as many people as I can with me along this journey to make them better, to teach them something that they didn't know. And I have the gratitude to sit here on this panel to say I've coached at least 3 people that are sitting in this room with me today. And I just am so thankful that you've let me into your lives. You've allowed me to teach you some of the things that I just absolutely adore. And I just want to take everybody with us as we grow this community, as we rise everybody up, and we just all become superstars.
That's amazing. And, and again, the way this book is organized, we have everyone telling their story. And then at the end, it's sort of followed by a top tip. And Amanda, tell us what your top tip is. And I'm interested in the how of this top tip. So go ahead.
I didn't read my top tip.
What's my top tip, Diane? Okay. Your top tip is basic. I mean, because I know someone like you, everything you've been through, there's probably so many tips you could recommend. But your top tip, it says, if I had one piece of advice, it would be to transform your mindset and your attitude. And then you finish with a quote from Henry Ford that says,
whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. So, I think I get really passionate. Everyone knows my passion on this panel. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. My dog is crazy. Mindset is everything. We stand in our own ways. I think everybody has that experience with themselves. If you doubt yourself, that is where you're going to go. Whatever you put your mind towards, that's exactly where you're headed. And especially when we were told that there is no cure, I really, really wish that the doctors and the therapists and the physicians would say, currently there is no cure, but there is so much that you can do. And that message has to be sent and broadcast everywhere. Currently, we still haven't had a viable solution to cure lymphedema and eradicate it. But there is so much everybody can do to make your life better, living with it, and to get back into this world to live your fullest life. And so if you think you can, great. But if you think you can't, well, you're going to go exactly to what you think your thoughts are.
Well, certainly you shoot yourself in your foot, if I can say it, if you say, I cannot. And coming to your that comment that it's like the leitmotif of the lymphatic problem, that saying that no cure. I'm so angry every single time because most of the pathologies that we have in human being are not cured. You don't cure the 99% of the hypertension. You don't cure the 99% of cases of diabetes and so on. So this is just nonsense to say it. Well, I think you are right. That should be immediate focus on what can you do to improve your condition, period.
100%. And I also believe that through this condition, I fell in love more with myself. If I wasn't afflicted with this illness, I wouldn't have turned into what you see today. I wouldn't hold myself accountable. I wouldn't go to the gym as passionately as I would. I would probably eat a lot of way worse foods and go to like a Las Vegas style buffet at least once a week. I would probably treat myself worse if I didn't have this condition. And I just think that that's something really powerful. People don't normally make a change until they get the heart attack or until they see their doctor and get their bad news. We have a privilege, every single person, not only myself, but every single person in this planet has the privilege of hopefully taking care of themselves in some way, shape, or form. It's a privilege to cook yourself a beautiful meal. It's a privilege to be able to go out for a walk and to get that breath of fresh air. For the people who are disabled in their house and can't have that mobility, they can still do deep breathing exercises. They can still learn how to find a path or find a way with whatever circumstance that you're given. And some of the most heroic stories of history, we love the underdog. We love the people who are oppressed that rise to above occasion. And this just isn't me talking. This is everybody can be a better version of themselves. It shouldn't have to take a condition like lymphedema to spark that flame. But that's what it took for me. And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for this illness.
You know, I want to say Amanda opened with a really important statement, and not a statement, but a description on how she was able to get herself out of that rut, out of bed with little action steps, smaller action steps. Like every day it was maybe, like she said, a little further to the washroom, drinking her water. That's the important part that was important for me, is to understand that I don't have to make all these changes, these big changes at once, but these little changes are very monumental to us. And so that was really important what you said, Amanda, in the very beginning, because even when you and I work together, because I'm one that made a train, and I will say, like, Amanda focuses on the small steps, the action steps. And you guys have seen my right leg. It was 200% larger than my left. And we all know that, you know, the journey I've been on. But one of my goals was to be on a stage, and not in a pageant, but in a bodybuilding competition. And when I saw Amanda on the stage years prior, I was like, I want to do the same thing. So Amanda trained me, got me on the stage. I placed third and fourth. I lost to a 17-year-old gymnast, so I can't even be mad. She didn't even have kids yet. So what Amanda's saying, what she did for herself, it shows in her training, it shows in her lifestyle. She is what she says she does. And I think that's really important to understand, because sometimes people think we have it so easy, we make it look so easy, but like she said, it's like this. And you go with the journey. And so that was really why Matt and I we wanted Amanda. We both wanted to reach out to Amanda. And he's like, well, I don't want to reach out to her. So Matt and I, again, we were on the same wavelengths of the type of authors we wanted in the book, because we wanted people who've been through this, and we wanted people who have shown what you can do and the top tips. And don't worry, Amanda, I forgot what chapter I am, and I forgot my top tips. So don't. I was like, boy, I hope they don't ask me that. I don't even have my book next to me, but. So I do appreciate what you said, Amanda, because that's really important for people to know and to hear coming from someone like you, because we don't have to do everything at once, but those small action steps, like the drinking the water or just walking a little bit further each day, it's so important. And
go for that low hanging fruit, right?
Right.
Just go for what's closest to you that you can do. Get consistent to that, and then once you get good at that, you go for that piece of fruit that's just a little bit higher. And
that's right.
I think that people have to understand, like, my path isn't a straight upwards path. And neither I think is yours, Amy, and same with Karen. Kaz, sorry, I call her Karen when she's in trouble. but people just assume that success is this big monumental jump, and it is just one small step makes that long bridge and that long path, and you always want to choose the path that it has the low-hanging fruit. Go for something attainable. You feel good by doing it. It's easier to accomplish that one small task than making 10 drastic changes. And if you fall down, well, then that's okay too, because you at least know how to take that first step.
Vein Formula 1000 and Lymphatic Formula 1000 from Vita Support MD are backed by science and sold in doctors' offices. If you're a physician who may be interested in prescribing or selling these excellent nutraceuticals, please call 862-246-7877 to speak to a representative today.
I'm going to jump in there with a couple of things because I think it's such a great discussion. Brings us back to one of our guests, Dr. Barry Franklin, who's the exercise physiologist, cardiology specialist up in Detroit, who pointed out that with exercise in general, just using exercise as a part of this treatment protocol as one small part of it, but an important part. For our listeners, it's important to know that in the condition that Amanda's in now and the condition that Amy's in now, for example, in very, very good physical condition, they can make huge increases to their physical activity, and it has relatively small health benefit now because they're so fit. But for those of you who are just beginning on this journey, for those of you who are still kind of lying in bed, being depressed, being affected, whether it's with lymphedema or lipedema or general obesity or depression, et cetera, any number of problems that might have you lying in bed, feeling down and being unfit. It is people like yourself that benefit the most from a little bit of activity, from a little bit of movement, from a little bit of walking. One of my mentors used to say, start with an apple a day and a walk around the block. And if you're really in a depleted state, mentally, emotionally, physically, he used to say, where else would you start? You can't start with the marathon. You know, Amanda talked about running a marathon. Well, you can't start with a marathon. You might not be able to start with the walk around the block. You may only be able to take 10 steps or 5. But that's where you start. As the old expression says, start with what you've got from where you are and start now. The other thing I wanted to pick up on is this Henry Ford quote about if you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. Paraphrasing it, but that's the idea of it. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. These quotes are very valuable. They're helpful. I love quotable quotes and quotations, but I also understand what it means for a patient to be sick, for a patient to be depressed, for a patient to feel isolated, for a patient to feel hopeless, helpless, and very much alone. And that's why I'm so proud of this program and everyone involved tonight and all the other nights and behind the scenes, because we hope that if we can reach one more person who's out there who feels that isolation, feels that hopelessness and that helplessness, we're all here to tell you that there is hope and there is help, and that little things, as the ladies are saying, little things add up and make all the difference. But it's so important that we're here as sort of a beacon of light for so many people with so many conditions, so many physical, mental, and emotional conditions, that they don't feel that loneliness and that hopelessness and that helplessness. And the last thing I'll say before perhaps we move on to the next portion of our show, because it looks like we're almost about halfway through already, believe it or not, is this idea that there's no cure. Dr. Glowicki is absolutely right, and Amanda is absolutely right, that most medical conditions are incurable. We have a few things. If you have an infected appendix, it can be cut out and thrown in the garbage and you're cured. If you have an infected gallbladder, it can be cut out and thrown in the garbage and you're essentially cured. And fortunately, there are a number of cancers that can be cured and other problems that can be cured. A broken bone can mend. But most problems are chronic and progressive and incurable. But as you pointed out, both of you pointed out, that doesn't mean that there is no treatment, that there is no hope for improvement, that there is no management possible. One of the biggest challenges we face, and the other reason for our show, half of the reason for our show, is for patients and family members and loved ones of patients who want to see patients get better, people afflicted with these problems. But a huge part of our listening audience is physicians. Physicians not only who specialize in this area, but more importantly, who don't, who aren't aware still of lymphedema, what it is, primary versus secondary, lipedema, what it is, that it's even a real disease, and so on and so forth. So our program is also here to educate those folks, our colleagues in healthcare, doctors and nurse practitioners and physician's assistants and vascular technologists and lymphatic therapists and on and on and on and on, that these are real diseases. They have names, they have diagnoses, they have causes, and there are multifactorial treatment protocols available: diet, exercise, nutrition, surgery, medication, on and on and on. And so that's why the show is so important, and having guests like Amanda are so important, and Kaz, and of course Amy. And we've been working together, Amy and Amanda and myself, for years now in different venues and different formats. And we just have to keep raising awareness and sharing this information, because ignorance is our biggest problem. our biggest problem in this problem, our biggest problem in healthcare, and our biggest problem in the world, unfortunately. Ignorance is the root of all evil, unfortunately. So we're here to cast some light and shed some light. And Amanda, every time I hear your story, it just inspires me to keep working and keep at this. So thank you very much. And Diane, I think maybe, Paul, I don't know if you're looking at the clock, maybe it's time to...
can, but before I'd just like to ask Amanda if, speaking of sharing information, for any listener out there who would like to reach out to Amanda and perhaps utilize her services in terms of her coaching and training, how can they reach you, Amanda?
You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube under am.sobey, or just type in Amanda Sobey. I think my first name and my first and last name on Google will get you direct access to me. I also have a website at amandasobey.com. And I do consultations all the time. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just sign yourself up, and I look forward to speaking with you.
All right. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. We are going to move over to Kaz. And Kaz, when I read your story, it's the idea that it just seemed to be just a rainy day. I mean, the amount of diagnoses when you started with the lymphedema, then it's the lipedema. I'll let you tell it, but it was kind of like when it rains, it pours. And the amount of triumph that I feel, I mean, you have risen to, I mean, it is just so wonderful. But we would love to hear your story and how you came to have lymphedema and then, rise above all these other challenges.
Okay. All right. I'm Kaz Windsor. I'm in the UK. I am a lymphatic reflexologist and fascia therapist, and created a clinic to help people and treat people with these illnesses, which is why my story is so important. So my story goes all the way back to 1999. I fell over. I hit my left leg. Fell down some stairs. I ended up with an indent in my leg. I went to A&E and they said to me, you've probably got a bruise. You need to go home, put your leg up. 3 weeks later, I had what was like a football mound on my leg. It was the bruise had gone into the bone. And I had to have it lanced under general anaesthetic, which didn't really help. My dad had to hold me down whilst they lanced it. They filled it with gauze, and then they gave me intravenous antibiotics and they let me leave. And when I went back to have the dressings changed, they never took the gauze out. And so it infected the whole of the inside of my leg. And from that point on, I then had to have skin graft surgery. And then that carried on until 2005. And I was working and the skin started coming away from my leg, and we didn't know why. I had private at that time. So I went privately to see a consultant, and he said, what might have happened is that they've left something inside and it's trying to get out. So what we're going to do is we're going to open you up where the skin graft area is, and we're going to do a large skin flap repair. Well, when he did that, he hit my lymph, and I ended up with secondary lymphedema in the left leg. And I was also overweight, or what I thought I was overweight. So I weighed around 26 stone. I don't know what that is in terms of kilos or like the conversion. But I was big. I was a size 26. And I thought it was down to, I tried everything to try and lose weight. I'd been in and out of dietitians and everything throughout my life. I'd had my mum pushing me into dietitians, and then this happened with the lymphedema. And I very luckily ended up being sent to St. George's through the consultant at the hospital, and went straight to Professor Mortimer. And he took one look at me and he said, yes, it's chronic lymphedema. We need to get you bandaged. And he said, but if you don't lose weight, and I was in a wheelchair, he said, if you don't lose weight, you are going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. And I don't know what happened. I kind of went home. It was like an out-of-body experience, whether it was my higher self coming into me, which I now believe probably did happen, and said, don't worry, because things are going to change, but you're going to have to fight this. And so I ended up teaching myself Pilates and teaching myself how to do different things to help myself. I had like exercise balls. It was all very little. I couldn't do a lot. It was all very little. And I had an open wound on my leg that I had to constantly have surgery for every 3 months, I think it was. I had vacuum packs. I had different dressings. And I constantly went through this. So that carried on from 2005 to 2010. And I had just over 30 operations. I was on crutches. I was bandaged, both legs. And then I realised I was being bandaged on both legs. And I was thinking, well, lymphedema doesn't it go to just one extremity? And then there was lots of pamphlets and things at the hospital that were talking about lipedema. So I brought it up to Professor Mortimer in 2010 and said, have I got lipedema? And he said, no, it's lymphedema. Well, once I'd got the lymphedema under control, in 2015, I was diagnosed with lymphedema. And I was then under the care of Professor Mortimer and Christiana Gordon. And both of them had decided that because I was doing everything I could to lose weight, I'd lost the bulk of weight at that point. I was trying to exercise. I was trying to fix my mental health. I then had other diagnoses of hypermobility, Ehlers-Danlos, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, osteoarthritis. And all of it was because of what I'd been carrying on my body, but I didn't know anything about it. And they said I had a Bison score done and I was 9 out of 9. And so that means I'm extremely hypermobile and my joints are extremely vulnerable. And so even now, that is a problem and something I have to work towards. So they said they were going to help me get funding for surgery for lipedema. And it was said to me that the lipedema had been masked by the chronic lymphedema that I had gone through. But it was almost as if the lymphedema was like both legs. And I was bandaged on both legs for 3 years, the 8-layer bandaging. And that was what got the lymphedema down. And now today, I don't even have to wear compression. Like, that's how much the lymphedema is under control. So that happened. And then they wrote to the CCG and said that this girl needs the surgery because it's going to help her have a new lease of life. She's going to be able to, she's going to be more mobile. She's going to be able to do a lot more. And I went through quite an invasive process with this, only at the last minute to be turned down for cosmetic reasons. And it was soul crushing. And the next step was to go and see a private consultant. I went to see a private consultant. And then that was the consultant who turned around and said to me, well, you've actually got Durkheim's disease as well. And I was just like, what? What are you telling me? And then they quoted me $58,000 for all of the surgery that I needed, which was completely unobtainable. And I hit rock bottom. And I think I had to hit rock bottom because then I had to bounce back up. And then I started researching. Amy is actually the first person that I ever met in any of this, because I met Amy back in 2005, 2006 with lymphedema, not anything to do with lipedema. There was 3 other women. I can't remember who the other women were, but Amy hadn't even had her surgeries at that point. We were all new to this. And I could see that these other women were able to lose weight, but I wasn't. And so I didn't understand what was going on. And then obviously the diagnosis of lipedema and everything else came into play. I hit rock bottom. And when I say I hit rock bottom, it was to the point where I was just like, why am I here? Because what am I supposed to do? I felt like I was burdening every single member of my family. I couldn't do anything for myself. I couldn't look after myself. And I was crushed. I didn't know where to turn. I started researching and I started looking into things. And one of the first thing I started looking into was dry brushing. I first started looking into dry brushing. I then put 2 messages on Facebook, one to Lipedema UK and one to Talk Lipedema. And Talk Lipedema answered. And from that point on, I've been with Talk Lipedema ever since. And now I'm their vice chair. And I literally was at a loss and didn't know what I was going to do and where I was going to go. And so I had to figure out things for myself. And so I started seeing things about keto, and I started seeing things about fasting. And so I started going down the dry brushing route, the keto route, and the fasting route. And that was good. That started to work. And then I was working with a trainer. I got a trainer on board, and I was working with a trainer, and he was unaware of lymphedema or lipedema, but I trained him on everything to do with that. And he trained me to help me with my muscles, to help me with the hypermobility. And so it was a constant thing of researching, looking into something. And then I went into holistic health, and I started researching. I started having MLD, and then I met a lady who was doing reflexology, and she said to me she was going to start doing RLD, which is reflexology lymph drainage. She said, I want to try it on you. And I said, okay. So she did, and I was shocked at what was happening. And then the following year, it was like a gift. She paid for me to become a reflexologist. And from then on, I became a reflexologist, qualified in reflexology, in RLD, in hormone reflexology. I've created a formula of treatments that now treat these illnesses. I treat lipedema, I treat lymphedema, I've treated Matt, I've treated Amanda just recently. She literally flew to the UK, and I had her in the clinic for 2 weeks, and she's gone home, and I'm shocked, but her measurements have stuck with everything that she's doing. The measurements have stuck, the treatment that I've worked on. I went into researching about fascia, understanding about the tissue in the skin, understanding lipedema in itself, and everything that I've been through in the last 19 years hasn't been for anything. It's now been for a purpose, for a reason. And that purpose and reason is that I am supposed to create this clinic. I am supposed to be treating people. I am supposed to be giving them the knowledge and wisdom that I've got. And I had to go through that to get to this stage. And it has been horrific, but there's almost like the payout now of helping everybody else around me. So it's been an emotional and treacherous journey, and it's had a lot of twists and turns. And I think it's still going to have a lot of twists and turns because I still have these illnesses, but I have to do a lot on a daily basis. They call me a self-care queen on social media. I built my social media in COVID. I'm so shocked at how things are progressing with the treatments that I'm putting out there, with people flying in from LA, Canada, Dubai, Kuwait. Like, it's crazy. I had literally last weekend, a mother and daughter flew in from Spain for the day to have a treatment and then flew home again. And it blows my mind that I'm the one who's put that all together. And it's just a gift. And I just want to be able to give the gift.
Yeah, this is an amazing story. I'm going to jump in. I mean, guys, this is just remarkable and incredible. Congratulations. I just want everyone to know I did the calculations here to put it in perspective, because most of us around the world don't use stone. 26 stone is equivalent to 364 pounds.
Yeah.
26 stone is also 165 kilos. Is it 14 pounds is 1 stone, which is roughly something like 6 to 7 kilos. So really, this is a person who started at a very, very extreme weight. Yeah. A life-threatening weight, quite frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you think about it, this is sort of dovetailing into what Amanda was getting at earlier. In Kaz's case, lymphedema may have saved her life. Because, right? If she had not had this diagnosis, she probably would have remained very happily for any period of time on the path that she was in terms of her training and nutrition and mental attitude and philosophy, psychology, and all of those things. And again, going back to what we were saying, think of, for our listeners, think of the remarkable, dramatic story that we're hearing and how, remarkable the transformation has been physically and mentally and emotionally in Kaz's life. We're looking at her. We can't believe this is a woman who ever weighed 365 pounds. It's just impossible to believe. And what did she begin with? Dry brushing.
Yeah.
How are you going to walk around the block? I mean, dry brushing, which is something that many clinicians, I can assure you, will say has no value, doesn't work, et cetera.
Oh, it has so much value.
But we know that
So
it
much
has value if it has no other value, which I'm not disagreeing with you. But we know that it has value philosophically, psychologically, mentally, and emotionally, in the sense that it goes hand in hand with what we've been saying, not only on this program, but on every program. It was someplace to start. It was a place to begin your journey of healing, of treatment, of improvement, something that you could do, something you felt comfortable in doing, something that you believed in, and something that made you feel good, made you feel a little bit better, and led to the next step. Certainly, you couldn't have achieved the results you've achieved with dry brushing alone, but it was a place to begin the journey. So for our listeners, no matter how small, that's the danger, is that many people who are deconditioned, overweight, sick, depressed, etc., any combination of those things and others, there's a very, very seductive thought, which is, oh, well, what's the use? What's a little dry brushing going to do? Look at the condition I'm in. What's a walk around the block going to do? What's eating an apple going to do? It's just so insignificant. It could never help me.
At VitaSupport MD, we believe in creating the best bioflavonoid-based supplements to support your vitality. Bioflavonoids are found in abundance in nature and support excellent health and wellness. The demands and stresses being put on our bodies in these challenging times are unlike any we have seen before. Support your body with the flavonoids it needs to fight inflammation and oxidation. Unlike other products in the marketplace, VitaSupport MD dietary supplements use micronized flavonoids for optimal absorption and effectiveness. Micronization is an advanced process which creates an ultra-fine powder easily absorbed by the body. At VitaSupport MD, we are passionate about making your good health our life's work.
And what I'm here to share with you, with the rest of the panel and our guests and our contributors, is that there is no action too small to have a massive impact. It's what Dr. Franklin taught us. A small amount of exercise, a tiny amount of exercise, walking at 2 miles an hour for 2 minutes has a massive health impact on the person who hasn't been off the couch or out of bed in 6 months or 1 year.
Well, that's true, because I do on social media, and I'm one of Amanda's clients, but I put a 60-second movement thing together every day. I have thousands of women who do that, who message me. They're doing it with their kids. They're up doing these little movements that we put together, and it's just to get them moving. And the more they get moving, the more they take that to the next level, to try something different, to try something more, because they're seeing something happen. They're 100%. Not just sat there watching.
100%. And I'm going to add one more comment and then pass it on to the rest of the panel. Dr. Glavitsky knows, Dr. Eicher knows, one of the most remarkable things that we know in vascular medicine and vascular surgery has not to do with the venous system or the lymphatic system. What I'm going to share has to do with the arterial system, the disease that we call PAD, or peripheral arterial disease, atherosclerosis of the lower extremities. People develop a syndrome called claudication. Claudication generally refers to muscular pain, typically in the calves. It can also be in the hip and buttocks, depending on the severity or the location of the blockages in the arteries. We know for 50 years that walking can not only cure claudication, but prevent surgery and prevent limb loss. And the classic teaching for claudication, walking exercise, was you have to walk for 30 minutes a day. If you can get up to 30 minutes a day, you can save your limb. And the way that walking is educated is you walk as far as you can walk and then you stop. And while you're stopped, that counts toward your 30 minutes. So if you walk 10 steps and you rest for 3 minutes, then you've done 3.5 minutes. If you walk another 10 steps and walk 3 minutes, rest 3 minutes, the rest time counts in the 3 minutes. And if patients will do that every day, they can walk a bit further before they have to rest and walk a bit further before they have to rest as collaterals begin to grow. And eventually, it may take 1 month, it may take 1 year, depending on the patient. But eventually, they will get up to 30 minutes of continuous walking. And when they get to that point, they can avoid operation and they can save a limb. So we know that tiny amounts of exercise done consistently, stacked on top of each other, can be limb-saving and life-saving. So your story is just a confirmation of a lot of science that we already know about. And Dr. Franklin is one of the great experts on that. It was such a pleasure to have him on the show. So you starting with dry brushing, I think, is an inspiration to me and a motivation to anyone out there, which says there's no activity so small that it doesn't count. Everything counts. Everything you do counts, and everything you don't do counts. So that is a remarkable story. Congratulations, and congratulations on your success. And it seems that somehow, some force in the universe has, again, like Amanda, like Amy, and like so many others, blessed you in a way with this problem, so that
100%.
touched the lives of so many other people around the world.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful.
I'm very grateful.
Your top tip, Cass, it had to do with dry brushing and I believe compression. Yeah. Is there anything more specific you'd like to say about that?
Well, dry brushing for me is the number one, I would say. And in my courses that I have online and everything, I will talk about dry brushing I'll talk about it for hours because I see the benefits of it. And it isn't just necessarily the benefits of what we're trying to achieve. It's what you're trying to get somebody to do. You're trying to get them to do something. You're trying to get people around you to do something to help themselves. I am all about healing yourself. I am a mindset coach. I have taken all of these things to the next level, and I'm learning all the time, all these new modalities. Just this week and last week, I've been learning somatic trauma healing because I think that's going to play a massive part in the journeys of lymphedema and lipedema. And I certainly see a lot of people with a lot of trauma that is stuck in the body. And so there, again, is easy movement, easy ways of moving the muscles, moving the body, moving the limbs to release that trauma out the body. So I'm constantly looking at different ways, different means of looking after these illnesses. Dry brushing would be number one. Movement would be number two. Compression would be number two, especially for lymphedema. Movement would be number three. Nutrition would be number four. And the tissue would be number five. I think tissue is more valuable. Talking about the tissue and fascia is probably more valuable to lipedema, and the understanding of how to release the lipedema from the fascia, from the natural fat, which is part of the formula that I work with in my clinic that I've come up with, which works at reducing the limb size for my lipedema clients and patients. And the same technique was used on Amanda for lymphedema, and well, the before and afters are quite shocking. So it was quite a big release. But Amanda went through a lot of detox and a lot of trauma detox as well. In that she came over to the UK after having had quite a tough end of last year with having to have surgery, and so she came in and saw me very, very traumatized and down. And part of that was to do with her leg and where her leg had got. And so I was able to help her. And yeah, it's a gift, it's a purpose, it's a meaning, it's something, you know. And Amanda's helped me. She trained me the whole of 2021. So she taught me how to use my muscles, how to do things. And we've remained solid friends ever since. And for her to travel to the UK and meet her, it was like meeting a sister. So, yeah.
And I cooked.
Yeah, she cooked. And she taught me all about chemicals in food. Trust me, there's no chemicals that I'm eating anymore. So
I'm for hire.
Cooking. Yeah. We did lots of things. So it was really cool getting to know her on her level. She met me on my level. She came to a couple of my treatments that I have to have for me. And whilst I look and do everything that I do on social media and run the clinic and do what I do for other people, I still have to look after me, because these illnesses, if I don't, they will get on top of me. And so I have to constantly be in that realm of self-care, in that realm of looking after myself, being careful, not doing things that I can't do, not overexerting, making sure I've got my energy, making sure I can look after myself before I can look after other people. And a lot of that works with my mindset. I'm very hot on, and I went to a conference last year in London with German consultants and surgeons who were here for lipedema. And the reason why they wanted me there was because I hold people accountable to their own self-healing. And that's because I've had to hold myself accountable to my own self-healing, because I got given up on. So like the CCG, they cut me down. There was no way I could afford to have that private consultant, private surgery. So if nobody else was going to help me, who was going to help me? I had to help me. And I had to find a way to help myself. And in finding a way to help myself, I found a way to help thousands. And I think that, yeah, I'm just really grateful for it. And a lot of people don't understand that when I say that sometimes, because of what I've been through and what they've seen me go through and what they continue to see me go through. But I am grateful, because I wouldn't have made the friends, I wouldn't have made the contacts, I probably have a better understanding of the world than Joe Bloggs down the road, who's just doing whatever they're doing, because I have all these amazing connections and people that I talk to, and meeting all these different races and different people coming in from different countries, and all, you know, my life isn't boring. It's not boring. It's fun.
Right. Cass, tell us how.
See my job as I don't see my job as like a job. I just see it as, you know, it's fun. I'm meeting new people. It's just something that I have to do, that I want to do.
Tell us the name of your clinic and how people can access your services.
Okay, so my clinic is Sculpt and Change Therapies. My website is www.sculptandchangetherapies.com. And then you can get me on all social media under @Kaz Talks. And then my Facebook is Kaz Windsor.
I want to jump in one more second with a couple of things. For our listeners, we're going to have quite a number, or possibly going to have quite a number of guests from the UK on the program. And one of the things that our guests have been referring to is A&E. So here in the United States, we call that the ER, the emergency room, or the ED, the emergency department. In the UK, A&E is accident and emergency. So just so you know what they're referring to when they talk about that. And the other thing that I want to mention to our physicians and our listeners that Kaz mentioned today that we've never really discussed on the program before is the Beighton score regarding hypermobility and how to test for hypermobility. And she being a 9 is the maximum score. Something for physicians to look at when evaluating patients, especially with lipedema. because we do know that there is this connective tissue disorder association and Ehlers-Danlos and so on and so forth. So for our clinicians listening, on your clinical exam, again, everyone knows I'm a big proponent of examining patients. Not a dying art, apparently a dead art, but that's not something you're going to pick up on a CAT scan. So
I think Emily should explain it because we had such a wonderful.
I'm sorry. This is thank you, Monica. I just have to run to a patient. So very quickly, compliment to both of you. You're amazing ladies, but it's not a secret. I also live with lymphedema a bit longer than you. And Karen, on the scientific level, I just want to say about this dry brushing. It's important, especially for lipedema. Young lipedema, fine, but all the population has very thin skin, and that's the difference between lymphedema and lipedema. Lipedema has very thin skin, so you have to do very gentle, just like you do manual lymph drainage. It's not a deep tissue, but very gentle stimulation. And
very gentle stimulation on the surface. But a lot of my clients who are
hold on, because I have to go. I have to go with the patient. So let me finish this. I use, when I'm putting compression stocking on that I have to wear every single day, what I'm using is gardening gloves, really rough gardening gloves. And I use my massage with those, very gentle massage with the gardening gloves. And it's complete difference when you have lymphedema in one leg and uninvolved the other side. You feel how the initial lymphatics that is right under the skin is really moving. And that's the same scientific explanation for the dry brushing, which is very, very gentle. So compliments to both of you ladies. And it was amazing that you used your disadvantage or disability as a gift. And I was thinking, I started in a surgery, and boy, was I bummed out when I developed lymphedema. And then I branched to rehab medicine. And today I concur with you when I say I'm grateful for this, because way back when somebody said, you know what, you could have been a good surgeon, but now you go everywhere. And I'm meeting all of you wonderful ladies. And Winnipeg, I gave a talk there. It's quite a nice town. It was beautiful and quite warm when I got here. So thank you so very much. It was really an incredible inspiration for all of the patients. And the key is to get off the butt, get off the chair and start moving. And when I see a consultation, I explain to the patient, this is what I can do for you, and I will improve your condition, maybe 10%, maybe 30%, but the 50% is up to you. Yeah. And both of you are incredible example to show how you changed your life. And when I saw your beautiful body, it was amazing to see what you can do. And this is for all of us patients. And, you know, when I go to the FDRS, the Fat Disorder Research Society meeting, and I see these lovely patients coming, and in the morning they have, instead of one bagel, 2 bagels with the cream cheese, and they are on a wheelchair. I see this does not have to happen. Mobilize, exercise, and start with the small steps, and then combine everything else. So I'm so sorry I have a patient to run to. So thank you so much. You are amazing. Thank you. Fantastic team. Diana, I bow. And
Emily, we love you.
You are the best. So thank you. Sorry I have to run.
Thank you. Well, I think we're almost out of time, Dr. Paul. What do you think?
I think it's been another great show filled with content that people can use. That's the important thing you're doing here, is people can take this to the bank, so to speak, and they can use it in their own personal lives. We do want to thank Dr. Emily Eicher. She's the one who just had to leave. We thank her for all of her input. We also want to thank Dr. Monica Glavitsky out in Arizona. Dr. Glavitsky, thank you for everything tonight.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, ladies, for your inspiration. You know, it's always so great to to see how you can overcome the terrible things that happened to you. And in a way, it's that's amazing to me how you can turn it out to the positive side, and how you can achieve such a mastering of your life, because that's what you do. Thank you.
Yeah, very well said. We also want to thank the founder of this show. He also is the founder and owner of VitaSupport MD. They make lymphatic formula 1000, vein formula 1000 from New Jersey, Dr. John A. Chubak. Dr. Chubak, thank you for everything, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Another phenomenal program. I look forward to these special programs, and I think that ultimately they're not going to be so special. They're just going to be a routine part of our lineup, because it's just so valuable to tell these patients' stories and to give hope and inspiration to all of the people out there, not just with lymphatic problems and lipedema and venous problems, but people with chronic disease of all types. And that's what our dear friend Dr. Glivitsky brings in so often in the program, is that so much of this philosophy toward healthcare and toward wellness is applicable to anyone with chronic disease and chronic progressive disease. So hope is always here, help is always here, and improvement is always a possibility. Thank you, everybody, for tonight.
Oh, you bet. I remember you told me a few years ago you wanted to get out there and teach and spread the word above and beyond what you do in your practice, and you've certainly hit the mark, Dr. John Chubak. Great show, not only tonight, but just in general, this LymphCast show. Great job. I do want to pass along our website before we thank our special guest and the producer. And don't forget, lymphcastnetwork.com is the place to go if you have a question for the panel. hello@lymphcastnetwork.com. Every show is on YouTube. Every show is in podcast land, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're everywhere. So please check us out. And I do want to thank the producer of this show. She's also the CEO of the Chubak Medical Group, Dr. Diane Chubak. Thank you, Dr. Diane Chubak, for everything.
Thank you. Another really great show. I'm very proud of this. I'm very proud of this collaboration. Again, this wonderful book that Amy and Matt put together with all these wonderful authors and contributors that tell wonderful stories about so many, themes that seem to be very common, but also the triumphs, and these triumphs are possible. And that's the most important point of this. So thank you, Amy, for co-authoring this book. And we look forward to at least 5 more shows that you'll bring on some other authors as well to tell their stories and everything that we can learn from them. And I thank you, Amanda. Always lovely to hear your story and everything that you can, lend to everyone else. And Kaz Windsor, we really appreciate you being on and all the transformational things that you've done for yourself and for others. Mm-hmm. And that's the point. And, the common theme here is I feel as though once we start helping others, that's when sort of the meaning behind all of this comes to light. So yes, thank you all very much.
Very well said, Diane. And we thank everybody again for listening and or watching to the LymphCast show, episode 41 tonight. We will see you next time, but don't forget to check out the website, lymphcastnetwork.com. We will see you next time on episode 42. Have a great day.